Hey everyone, this is going to be a bit different from my usual posts. It's not part of the regular schedule, but I had to come on and share this because the message coming through is very specific and honestly incredibly powerful. The energy around this connection is intense. Even just tapping into it, I felt this emotional wave rise up, like it was holding back tears that have been waiting to fall for a long time. There's been so much building up, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. And for many of you, even physically, if you've already met or interacted with this person. What I'm sensing is that this isn't just another fleeting connection. For a lot of you, this is something sacred. It's deeply tied to your spiritual growth and life path. It's not just romantic, it's part of your soul journey. That's why it feels so profound and why it's been so hard to shake. There's a lot more unfolding here than meets the eye. I do feel that at some point there were romantic feelings here, whether they were spoken out loud or kept tucked away in the heart. For one or both of you, this wasn't just a passing connection. The word that keeps coming up for me is pivotal. This person played a key role in your life path, and connecting with them shifted something inside you deeply. It was one of those soul-level meetings that changes the trajectory of your journey, even if you didn't realize it fully at the time. And just as they impacted you, you impacted them too. It was mutual. You elevated each other's paths in ways that may only now be coming into full view. There was a time when you felt more physically connected, more present in each other's lives. Whether that meant being in a relationship, sharing close communication, or spending meaningful time together. There was a phase where this connection had your full attention. I keep hearing the word fixation. You were deeply focused on this person. They may have felt like your center, your guiding star for a time. You were locked in emotionally, spiritually, even mentally. But when I tune into their energy from that same period, the word that comes through is scattered. It feels like while you were focused on them, they were split, emotionally unavailable, distracted, maybe carrying pain they didn't know how to express. There's a deep sense of heartbreak in their energy, but it comes through as numbness, as if they were disconnected from their own heart at the time. And that hurt, because you weren't just connecting with their personality, you were connecting with their soul. You saw the light in them even when they couldn't see it themselves. But the physical reality of that bond, the communication, the consistency, the presence, didn't match the spiritual depth. It left you feeling unseen, disrespected, and painfully numb. You knew the connection was real, but you were left holding the weight of something that never quite materialized in the way your heart knew it could. And that's what made it so disorienting. It was like having the key to a door that never opened. The bond was undeniable, but the experience may have felt unfinished, unbalanced, and at times deeply unfair. Whether it was through direct disrespect, being ignored, or just the feeling that their attention was always somewhere else, you were left slowly unraveling. Their split focus didn't just confuse you, it wore you down, piece by piece, like waves crashing against a shoreline. It wasn't one big moment, but a quiet, constant ache. And eventually you reached your limit. I'm hearing, you walked away with the pieces, but not all of you. That line is so heavy with truth. You moved forward, yes, but not untouched, not whole. For some of you, this may have even involved a physical move. Maybe you lived together, and had to leave, or perhaps you moved out of a city or place that was tied to them. Even if the geography stayed the same, the emotional distance became undeniable. You didn't walk away because you stopped caring. You walked away because you finally realized you couldn't carry the connection on your own anymore. You let go of the dream, not because you wanted to, but because your soul whispered that you had to. You had been clinging to a vision, a shared timeline, a future where this union would come together physically, just as powerfully as it did spiritually. You believed so deeply in what the two of you could be. You saw the alignment, you felt the energy. Being with them didn't just feel romantic, it felt sacred. They awakened parts of your purpose, lit a fire in your heart, and inspired your growth in ways you couldn't explain. But while your soul was soaring, your human self was suffering. They weren't showing up in the physical. The texts went unanswered. The promises never landed. The presence you longed for wasn't there. And that started to hurt more than the connection could heal. And in that heartbreak, a realization came. You're not just a soul, you're human too. You're here to live, to feel, to love, and to be loved in return. Not just on an energetic level, but in real, tangible ways. Love isn't just spiritual, it's also human. It looks like someone bringing you soup when you're sick, showing up when it matters, holding your hand on hard days, celebrating your wins and comforting your losses, being present, being real, being there. And somewhere along the way, you realized that you deserve that. Not just spiritual resonance, but physical support. Your heart may still remember them, but your soul chose you. And that choice, that's where your true power began to rise. Your human self wasn't being nourished, nurtured, or truly loved in that connection, and over time it started to show. You may not have realized it right away, but your energy began to fade. Life started to feel heavier. Maybe even others around you noticed you were more tired, more withdrawn, like the light had dimmed in your eyes, because while your soul was wide open, fully invested, your physical, emotional, and human needs were slowly being left unmet. You were giving so much from a place of spirit, but forgetting that you live in a human body with a heart that also needs care, presence, and peace. And eventually, something in you snapped, not in a chaotic way, but in a quiet, soul-deep realization. You couldn't keep living like this. You reached a point where you had to surrender. You knew letting go of that union timeline, even just for now, meant that you couldn't take every part of yourself with you. And that truth hit hard, because it felt like a piece of you was still there, still caught in the dream, still living out that soul bond in all its beauty and pain, still holding on to what could have been. It was like your soul fractured for a moment. Part of you moved forward, while another part stayed behind. And ever since that turning point, things have felt both freeing and complicated. On one hand, you've started tending to yourself again. You've begun remembering who you are beyond that connection. You've slowly returned to your body, to your breath, to your own needs and desires. It hasn't been easy, but it's been healing. You're learning, maybe, for the first time in a long time, how to love yourself completely. Not just as a soul in love with possibility, but as a human being worthy of love in action. And something beautiful has been unfolding because of that. As you've started treating yourself with more kindness and compassion, the world has started responding in kind. You've begun attracting people, friends, soul tribe, even strangers, who reflect that love right back to you. Maybe you've found comfort in new friendships, surprising moments of support, or fresh romantic energy that feels gentle, safe, and real. You've had glimpses of what it means to be loved in ways that don't leave you starving, to be seen in your full humanity, not just spiritually admired, but physically supported, emotionally cared for, and energetically respected. And while the journey hasn't erased the past, it's added something new: hope, healing, wholeness. A reminder that you're not just a soul here to dream, but a human here to live. And you deserve to be loved in ways that bring you peace, not just passion. In ways that hold you, not just haunt you. There's something really beautiful coming through about your creativity. How it's been slowly awakening and expanding, especially in how you express yourself. What I'm seeing so clearly is your throat chakra lighting up, like a flower in bloom. Your heart was always open. That's never been the issue. You've always had deep wells of emotion and love to give. But during your time in that connection, your voice, the part of you that speaks your truth, became quiet, maybe even silenced. You were swallowing your truth just to keep the peace, trying to bend and mold yourself to make it all work, to fit into something that just wasn't aligned physically, even if it felt divine spiritually. But when you finally surrendered, when you let go of trying to force a connection that was no longer feeding your soul, you started to find your voice again. Piece by piece, word by word, you came home to yourself. You began to speak honestly, live more freely, and surround yourself with people, spaces, and energies that actually nourished you. And in that safer space, your throat chakra began to open again. I see it so clearly, like a blooming flower at your throat, soft and glowing, blossoming wider with each truth you dared to own. From that reawakening, your creativity has come rushing back, like a river that had been dammed up for years. Whatever that looks like for you, writing, music, art, speaking, singing, crafting, designing, dreaming, you've been reconnecting with the part of yourself that creates just because it feels good to create. You're starting to remember who you were before the pain, before the heartbreak, before you felt like you had to trade authenticity for acceptance. And that reconnection has a magical innocence to it, because it feels like your inner child is playing again. You've begun revisiting ideas, hobbies, or dreams that once brought you joy just for the sake of joy. You're tapping into that childlike wonder, curiosity, and sense of freedom. And through this process, you're not just creating art, you're healing. You're allowing your inner child to feel safe enough to come out and dance again, to explore, to imagine, to simply be. And that in itself is profound. Still, there's a complexity here. As much beauty as there's also been this quiet sadness, a kind of hollowness that lingers in the spaces where that past connection used to live. You can feel the joy of new life springing forth from your own heart, while still grieving what didn't grow the way you hoped it would. And that's okay. That's part of the truth, too. Joy and sorrow can coexist, and both have shaped the masterpiece you're becoming. This won't resonate with everyone, but if it's meant for you, you'll feel it in your bones. What's coming through is complex, layered. There's a bittersweet truth here. Even though the connection brought deep grief and emotional chaos, you wouldn't undo it. You wouldn't trade the experience for anything, because somewhere in the middle of the mess, the magic, the silence, and the soul-level pull, you found you. You're not just proud of yourself for surviving it. You're proud of yourself for leaving when it would have been easier to stay. For choosing your peace, your healing, your human needs, even when your soul was screaming for a reunion that wasn't ready to happen. That kind of courage, it's rare, so rare, and not everyone will understand the emotional strength it takes to walk away from someone who feels like home to your soul, especially when your body, your heart, and your spirit were still tethered to them in 1,000 invisible ways. But you did it. You loved yourself enough to let go, to walk away from something that might have felt eternal in the spiritual realm, but wasn't nurturing or sustainable in the physical. That decision, choosing your own well-being over the pull of a soul bond, is one of the hardest choices a person can make. You didn't walk away because you stopped caring. You walked away because you finally started caring about yourself. And yes, it changed you. That love wasn't just another chapter. It altered the whole storyline. It shifted you closer to your divine path. It cracked you open in ways you didn't expect and pulled forth parts of you that had been buried or forgotten. Because of that connection, you now walk with a deeper sense of purpose, of truth, of alignment. You love harder, you see clearer, you speak more honestly. You've reclaimed pieces of yourself that you didn't even know you were missing, and there's something profoundly beautiful about that. Still, that beauty didn't come without a cost. You grieved. You still might be grieving. And even as you move forward, flourishing, healing, rising, there's this quiet ache in your spirit. Because when you left that union timeline, it wasn't just emotional, it was soul level. You left behind a version of yourself who was fully immersed in that story, who had high hopes and big dreams for where it was all going. And walking away felt like trying to pack a suitcase you knew couldn't possibly hold all of who you were in that moment. I'm seeing that so vividly, like someone standing in front of an open suitcase, trying to decide what parts of themselves to carry forward and what to leave behind. And that's what you did. You took the lessons, you took the strength, you took the love you learned to give yourself, but you had to leave behind some dreams, some visions, some hopes. And that's not easy. That's not something you just move on from overnight. It stays with you in whispers and memories and quiet moments when you miss what could have been. Still, you kept going, and that choice made you who you are now. A version of you who is deeper, stronger, wiser, someone who knows how to protect their own light, even when it's drawn towards something that once felt divine. Would you like to keep unfolding this into how your soul may still sense that person in the background, or how to navigate what remains energetically tethered? This runs deep. The message coming through is so tender, so layered. What I keep hearing is, you packed what you could carry, but not everything fit. And that's it right there, isn't it? When you stepped away from that version of your life, that connection, that soul bond, you didn't walk out untouched. You carried what your heart could hold. The rest, you had to leave behind, even if it tore at you, even if pieces of you still live in that space, in that old story. And ever since then, you've been walking a new path, a different one. It's felt like a journey of rediscovery, independence, creativity, even moments of wild, open freedom, like breathing fresh air after being underwater. But also, let's be honest, it's come with uncertainty. a sense of unfamiliar territory. You didn't choose this path because it felt safer. You chose it because your heart couldn't keep bleeding in the space it was in. You chose yourself over the ache. You chose the unknown over the predictable pain. That other timeline, the one with the soul connection, it didn't have to unfold the way it did, but the truth is, the person you were connected to, they were deeply wounded, not in a casual, surface-level way. We're talking about wounds that go back to early trauma, perhaps unhealed scars they've never learned how to face. Their human self, the part that was meant to show up for you, support you, love you out loud, was stuck in survival mode, fragmented, distracted, scattered. And even though their soul recognized you, even though there was a resonance, they couldn't rise to meet you, not where you needed them to. And that's what broke you open, because you weren't just connecting with a person, you were connecting with their soul. You were building dreams with that energy, but in the day-to-day, in the physical realm, you were being neglected, overlooked, or just left confused. That contrast, the depth of spiritual connection versus the dissonance in the human experience, was too much, so you walked away. Or maybe you drifted, maybe you crawled, maybe you cried through it. But either way, you left. Still, some part of you stayed, and you felt it, the lingering energy, the questions, the emotions that sneak up on you even now. It's like your soul is still tied to the echo of what could have been. You've tried everything: cord cutting, prayer, meditation, journaling, therapy, talking it out until the words felt meaningless. You've begged the universe for clarity, for peace, and yet there's this thread you can still feel. Subtle, soft, but unmistakable. Because what you experienced wasn't ordinary. It was rare, sacred, something that not everyone gets to feel in a lifetime. But here's the deeper truth. Just because a part of you remains on that past timeline doesn't mean you can't live fully, beautifully, right here and now. You've already proven that. This new season of your life has been one of rebuilding, of rediscovering your own light, your joy, your passions, your voice. You've been learning that soul-deep love doesn't always have to come wrapped in suffering, that you are worthy of love that shows up, that nurtures, that sees you in your entirety, not just on a spiritual level, but in the small human ways too. I keep hearing this loud and clear. It's safe to open your heart to love again. Whether that's love in friendship, love in romance, or even the kind of love that shows up as compassion and softness toward yourself. And wow, there's a lot coming through with this. Ever since you stepped away from that old timeline, from that intense, soul-altering connection, this chapter of your life has been gently but powerfully teaching you something important. It's been showing you that you can stand on your own 2 feet, that you are strong, that you are whole, that you can build a life rooted in your own worth, your own vision, your own essence. It's been showing you that you're not alone, that there are people, kind people, real people, who want to know you, support you, see you. Whether it's through friendship, love, or the beautiful spaces of community and connection, you've been slowly learning just how deeply lovable and magnetic you truly are. That you can co-create a life you genuinely love, and you've started tapping into that quiet, creative power within you, the part of you that knows you were born to build something beautiful, that knows you don't have to wait for anyone else to validate your existence. And yet, Something strange has been happening lately, hasn't it? For those of you this message is meant for, you may have started noticing these sudden glimpses, almost like flashes of that old connection. Not just as a memory, but as a future vision, as if you're seeing moments from a timeline where things finally work out. Maybe it's an image of the two of you together again, in peace. Maybe it's a feeling of reunion, of deep harmony. Maybe it's you living with them, building a life together, maybe even marrying them. And what's interesting is, for many of you, you haven't even thought about that possibility consciously in a long time. So when these moments come through, it doesn't feel like a memory or a fantasy. It's not even something you're trying to visualize or imagine. It's more like these little soul echoes sneak in when you're not expecting them, like a flash of something that could be, and part of you doesn't even know how to make sense of it. This next part of the message is about understanding what those flashes mean, whether they're a glimpse of a potential future or something your soul still needs to release. Want to go deeper? It's like these little visions are sneaking into your awareness. Quick flashes that leave you asking, where is this coming from? Why am I suddenly feeling this soft, unfamiliar ache for a future I consciously chose to let go of? If that's what's been happening for you lately, let me be clear. This isn't a coincidence. You're not imagining it, and no, you're not going backward. You're simply becoming aware of something you once couldn't feel. You're drifting into the energetic vicinity of that union timeline again, and it's showing up not to confuse you, but because it's coming back around for your reconsideration. What I felt when I was channeling this was powerful. I literally saw you sitting at a desk, but not just any desk. It was symbolic of who you've become. Grounded, confident, sovereign. You've stepped into your power in a way that maybe you never had before. For some of you, this is literal. Maybe you're running your own business, building something meaningful, or simply living on your own terms now. But regardless of the details, the energy is clear. You're now the one calling the shots in your life. And then across that desk slides a document, something once stamped rejected, something that once broke your heart or didn't work out. But now it's been revised, rewritten, and it's asking you to look again. To take a second glance and decide, is this something you still want to explore, or has it already served its purpose? Here's the key. This isn't about being pulled back into the past. This is about recognizing that timelines shift as people shift, that what once wasn't aligned may be coming into alignment now. And that doesn't mean you have to go back. It simply means the universe is putting something on your desk in front of your evolved self and saying, if you wanted to, you could choose again. But now, you choose from your healed place, your whole place, from the version of you who knows how to walk away when necessary and how to stand firm in your truth. Because remember, when you let go of that timeline before, it wasn't out of weakness, it was strength. You didn't leave because you stopped loving. You left because your soul and your human heart deserved more than what was being given. You had no choice but to walk away. I feel like you were pushed right up against the edge, whether it was your sanity, your peace, or just your overall well-being. You simply had to leave. But even in that moment, deep down inside, you knew. You felt it in your gut. Maybe it was hard to admit or even explain, But somehow you convinced yourself that leaving was the only way to protect that connection, that timeline. You knew that if you stayed where you were, if you kept holding on physically or emotionally, everything would spiral out of control, like the world itself might catch fire, at least in a metaphorical sense. You sensed that continuing down that road would lead to chaos, heartbreak, or maybe a permanent fracture that couldn't be healed. And so, with all the strength you had, you chose to step away. But here's the powerful part. Leaving wasn't just about walking away from pain. On some level, you also knew that stepping back was the only way to preserve that timeline. You gave space for it to breathe, to mend, or even just to pause. Maybe you also gave that person the room they needed to heal themselves without the pressure of being connected to you in the same way. It was an act of courage, not just for yourself, but for the future of that bond, whatever that future might look like. Now here's where it gets really interesting. For some of you, this process is already happening, and for others, it might be just around the corner. That old timeline you left behind, it's starting to heal. It's growing, evolving, and lifting itself up to meet you where you are now. At your current vibration, your current energy, it's reappearing in your life, gently presenting itself as an option you can consider. But, and this is so important, just because this possibility is coming back around doesn't mean you have to take it. That choice belongs entirely to you. The guides I'm tuning into are emphasizing this. You have the power to decide your own path. You can embrace this old connection again, but you could also choose a new path altogether. Maybe that means meeting a different soulmate, or finding a fresh kind of love, or simply continuing to stand strong on your own. This season of independence you've been walking through, it's been showing you something really important. You have options. You can choose to walk away, take a bold step forward, or simply stay where you are and honor your current place. Without feeling any pressure to rush or change, you're stronger and freer than you might realize. And the best part is, you get to decide what truly feels right for your heart and your soul right now. And here's a crucial reminder. There's absolutely no time pressure on this. I'm hearing this very clearly. Release any sense of urgency. Your journey moves on your own clock, your own divine timing. So drop the societal expectations, let go of what others think you should do, and really get honest with yourself about what you want. Give yourself permission to explore. Try new things, connect with people who lift you up, dive into hobbies or interests that spark joy, or pursue opportunities that make you feel alive. This is your moment to test the waters and choose what lights you up. If you've been getting those flashes, those sudden glimpses of a possible future with this person from your past, they're likely going to come back into your life in a new, more elevated way, inviting you to take a fresh look. But here's the key. The choice is always yours. These flashes are like sneak peeks of a harmonious, loving union you once deeply desired but couldn't have before. And when these visions come, it's so important to remind yourself, this isn't about regretting that you left that timeline. It's about honoring the growth you've made and recognizing the possibilities ahead without looking back with pain or what-ifs. The truth is, you made the only choice you could at the time. Your intuition was guiding you all along, even when it was painful to listen to. That harmonious union you're now seeing as possible with this person, It simply wouldn't have been possible if you'd stayed stuck on that old timeline. It was only by stepping away, choosing yourself, and walking your own path that you gave that timeline and that person the space and time to heal. Now they're coming back around, showing up again, inviting you to reconsider. And honestly, this whole reading is here to remind you that you made all the right choices, really the only choices you could have made, and the most intuitive ones too. It's beautiful how deeply connected you are to your own inner knowing, how you honored that even when it broke your heart. This new timeline, or really a fresh version of that old one, is stepping back into your life. Those flashes and moments of longing you've been feeling, that's you moving closer to a healed, elevated path with this person, the one you once walked away from. Now let me share what else I'm picking up about this timeline. I see the Temperance card reversed, which tells me this has been a long time coming. Deep down, your intuition always knew you'd circle back to this situation. And now, very soon, that moment is arriving. That's why I'm sharing this with you, to prepare you for an opening that's about to happen. With the Page of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune showing up, I sense a big moment on the horizon. Maybe a surprise meeting or unexpected message from this person. It won't feel random though. It'll feel like the universe is sending you signs, meaningful synchronicities, showing you this isn't just chance. I also see the Knight of Wands here. This person from your past will come in with a fresh energy, wanting to move forward quickly. With the Hangman reversed, they'll be showing up in a new mindset, familiar but changed. The Devil card reversed suggests they've overcome some major obstacles, things that probably held you two back before. When this person returns, you'll be in a place of strength, confidence, and self-assurance, as the Strength card shows. You've grown into yourself in powerful ways. I also sense you might be surprised. Maybe you don't even realize this person has been working on themselves so much. This new version of them is assertive and direct, very clear on what they want. Unlike before, when they felt scattered or distracted, now their focus is sharp, especially on you, determined to make things work. That said, with the Five of Swords here, I also see there might be some internal conflict, but not necessarily a negative one, more like a tug of emotions. Since you left that timeline, you've learned how to create your own dreams and build the life you want. So it's really important now to let only those people into your life who add to it, who are true collaborators, supporters, and uplifting energy. You're naturally cautious about this, and this new dynamic may stir up some mixed feelings because of the deep desire you once had for this connection. As always, I encourage you to trust your intuition. It's your best guide here. This is your choice. And remember, you don't have to rush anything. You can even choose not to choose right now. There's no pressure. If this message resonates with you and helped bring some clarity to what you've been feeling, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to stay connected to this energy and get future updates, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any new videos. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Wishing you a beautiful rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the next video.